Now let's look at the background. As it has a positive correlation with critical thinking. Critical reading involves a highly cognitive process. So a more profound indicate that critical reading is compulsory in education where it has to process analytical aspects, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating the information. Support your arguments in the assignment. Besides, the teacher trainees should be critical readers since the Ministry of Education requires them to achieve at least C1 in English mastery test, which includes skills based on the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages or CFR. Nevertheless, only 2022 state that the association will proceed that critical reading skills are totally required. Therefore, in this context, quantitative on the learning perception is critical as studies show that learning perception influence and affect their learning activities. Therefore, this study aims to explore how the activities federal explore their perceived critical reading. Next, what is the problem statement of the study? According to Nadia in 2017, critical reading has always been considered as challenging skill by many learners in learning language. The study by Carter 2014 illustrates that preschool teachers are unaware and unfamiliar of the strategies and information during their teacher training. And a study done by Salafi at state that engineering students at diploma level also utilize full utilization of critical reading and display those skills. This is supported by the findings from Majestic Examination 2022, where only 0.31% of candidates achieve C2 level of band 5 plus, while 7.13% achieve C1 level of band 5 in the reading test. The result demonstrates that the reading deficiency of Malaysian ESL undergraduate students, who are still unable to obtain C1 level, due to their lack of skill in critical reading, in addition to their lack of vocabulary, lack of reading habits, and lack of interest in reading tests, all of which can adversely affect their English proficiency level for 2021. And next, skills that affect their understanding of the text, making them unable to accomplish the standard test requirement, and can negatively affect their academic achievement, as mentioned by previous study. Next, the research objectives is based on the purpose statement. There are three. First is to find out activities that their IPS trains perceptions of critical reading skills at the education. Second is to find out the most critical reading skill among activities that and the third one is to identify the difference in perception between male and female activities in so the research questions are formulated based on the research objectives, and then the research hypothesis is there is no difference in perception between male and female activities. The significance of this research is that it provides students for IPG to become more aware of the practice, where this study provides insight for them that their self-confidence and then IPG analyzes the critical reading perception, where they can observe any possible causes that may affect perception. Therefore, it allows them to find possible solutions by integrating innovative and creative strategies to improve their critical. Next, sometimes enforce more effective initiatives or activity collaborative programs supporting the students who has low perception. It is important to help them to become more accomplished and knowledgeable language learners. Next, the related class research is comprised of local context, where they ascertain on the similar topic regarding the critical reading skill perception of ESL students. Therefore, all of these findings similar findings on the co-utilization and co-perceptions among ESL tertiary students. Meanwhile, these studies display contradictory results where they reveal the positive utilization and perception of critical reading among ESL tertiary students. So, moving on to the conceptual framework study, which includes independent variable or IB and the dependent variable or DP. So, the independent variable of the study is IPG and the RI percentage trainees, which comprise of male and female teacher trainees that affect and influence the DB of this study, which is perceptions of critical reading skills. So, the critical reading skills are sequentially classified under 6 levels based on this autonomy, which is level 1 knowledge, which is categorized as the whole. Level 4 analysis, level 5 synthesis, and level 6 are categorized as high order. So, For this research, it utilizes quantitative survey as a design. According to Jones et al. 2015, a survey design is cost effective and capable of collecting the data from a larger number of populations. Next, population is defined as a whole group of populations which have the same characteristics. And then, according to Bandari 2020, higher number of populations can provide more accurate and precise data. So that explains the intended population of the study, which is that consists 136 units from 6 cancer classes. And then the sampling method of the study is propulsive random sampling. According to the program 2009, propulsive sampling can be combined with random sampling techniques to prevent unbiased, and unreliable data, hence increasing the data quality. Next example of this study is 97 respondents by referring to the Belgian and modern 1970 sampling level. So the 97 respondents randomly selected out of the remaining 101 after 25 students have been used for pilot study. So the instrument used for data collection is that this questionnaire was adapted from Scientific and Open. So this questionnaire utilized 7-point scale. 2020 asserts that 7-point Likert scale is more precise and can provide better representation of the respondents' actual appraisal. And then this questionnaire contains 3 sections. Section A contains the items on the respondents' recommendation, and then section B contains 21 items specifically on low auditory skills. Section C is high auditory skills, containing 23 items. Next, the validity process is really important to answer that the questionnaire can measure what is intended to measure. So, this instrument has undergone the validity process by Jabatan Perancangan Penyelidikan dan Inovasi JBB, So, the expert validated the form to evaluate the questionnaire. Next, the reliability in which the instrument internal consistency can provide consistent results after the items is measured. So the prompt reliability test will be measuring the value based on the data collected from the pilot study. So this pilot study is based on 25 teacher trainees from classes of 2021 from State. According to the 25 respondents is sufficient in increasing the reliability and so the data the value is 0.97, which is deemed acceptable by field and by cost representative. So for the data collection procedure, starting from searching for an appropriate research instrument related to the topic, and then determine the population and sample based on the homogeneity. After that, conduct the study, we must obtain the approval and permission first from the FGM. We must conduct the pilot study. After that, then we distribute the survey to 97 respondents via WhatsApp, Google Form, and the respondents are given the survey. After that, we will analyze and collect the data. Based on that, a report is written based on the findings to address the question. So the data analysis procedure is where the data obtained will be analyzed by using statistical package for social sciences SPSS version 20.0 by measuring through the descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. Descriptive analysis includes the measure of mean, median, mode, frequency, and standard deviation. So the result will be used to address the research question 1 and research question 2. So the mean value will be interpreted based on the mean score interpretation table adapted by Penyelidikan 2019. Meanwhile, the inferential analysis where the researcher utilized t-tests to compare the means between two groups, which is male and female, which is frequently used in hypothesis testing. To find out whether the two differ from one another. Then the result is used to address the research question 3 by analyzing and interpreting the key value of significance scale by referring to the t-test result interpretations by University of Southampton 2022. So the data findings for R1 is obtained by measuring and analyzing all of the 44 items in this questionnaire. According to the table, we can see that section B, low still has the highest mean of 5.7, which is considered as high. Meanwhile, section C, higher on the thinking scale, has mean value of 5.6, which is considered as slightly high. Then section 5.6, which is considered as high. Therefore, it can be concluded that IPC have high and positive perceptions of critical reading skills and attention to education. Next, data findings for R2 shows that the application level is lowest mean of 5155, which is interpreted as high. Meanwhile, the level 3 evaluation has the lowest mean of 5.15. It's like, so the ranking from the most preferred level to the least preferred level can be reduced as follows. And then among IPC there are strategic training, the application level. Next, the data findings for IPC is where the p-value is 0.735, which is bigger than 0.05. According to University of Southampton 2022, p-value bigger than 0.05 is demonstrates that there is no significant difference. Therefore, that there is no significant difference in perception between male and female teacher trainees in critical reading skills. So the null hypothesis is accepted. So the discussion for everyone is the perception, which has the high mean value of 5.6. This data finding corroborates the previous studies by this people, where the previous teacher achieved high level of reading, critical reading perception. Next, for RQ2, the application level has mean value of 5.55, which is the high. And this study is in parallel with previous study by Sadabi and Tokyo, where ESL tertiary students more prefer to use level 3 application. And then for RQ3, which is the independent test, it reduced the p-value to 0.755. So it shows that it corresponds with the previous study, but there is no significant difference between male and female in critical reading perception. So it can be concluded for research objective one, which is IPG there are strategic techniques have high perception of critical reading at tertiary education. So it is that it has high self-esteem and self-confidence, which is supported by also Apple 2022 that high self-esteem can facilitate teacher training learning motivation and interest, which can help them to keep engaged in reading academic texts. Next, for research objective, as they are more proficient in applying personal experience, this is supported by are more confident and have the freedom to interpret the text based on their own perspective. Next, objective 3, it can be concluded that there is no significant difference in perception between male and female trainees. So it is supported by the previous study that shows that gender does not influence their critical reading perspective. So the null hypothesis is accepted. For the recommendation, the future study can utilize different research theory or model by administering various taxonomy, which emphasizes on measuring in competition. So correspondingly, teacher training actual performance might be different from their actual, might be different from their self-rated perception. So that future researcher can investigate the correlation with these variables through using correlation tests. And then the future study can use a larger size population by using another part from different RPGs to ensure more precise data, and the data can be generalized to a larger cohort, a larger population. For the research done, study technical qualitative performance approach by collecting the data through interviews and observation, as it can provide valuable feedback and more insights into supporting the quantitative result. So the implication is that really data trainees are aware of their skills by improving their knowledge. And when they improve their knowledge, they can be more motivated and interested in reading more academic journals. Next, IPG test lecturers analyze their perception level, so they can find the possible causes that may affect their critical reading problems. So they can incorporate more innovative teaching strategies in the classroom. Next, administrators can plan and enforce more initiatives to facilitate critical skills. So that by integrating efforts into the curriculum framework, it will help the teacher trainees to increase their critical thinking. And that's all.
Congratulations for Zoe. Finish your presentation. Okay, now question from me. Okay, can you please define again what you mean by critical reading?
Okay, actually, an important aspect of the reading skills is the soft skill of the reading strategy, which helps the learners to critically and engaging and by questioning the perspective of the text, so they can provide perspective from the text that they read about. So it literally explains on what they understand from the text and what skill that they use to engage with the text.
Good answer. First and foremost, congratulations on coming for your presentation. All right. I would like to refer to your sampling, right? So it says that you are using data state. I would like to know how do you avoid biasness in your findings by using uh, this population? Data state.
In order to avoid biases in this study, that's why I use the sampling method of purposive random sampling, where I purposely choose the PISMP plus 2026, and the random sampling method is used, where the respondents will be randomly selected. So that's why where I will not purposely choose the data. So from the data, we uh, can know. So the random sampling method probably something technique that helps the researcher to avoid biases where they can randomly choose the respondents' data without using the researcher's bias researcher's intention to intentionally pick and choose the answer they want.
Purposely, right? So you put the elements and quantities. I mean, you add in your criteria of the purpose sampling, right?
Okay, so the reason why Tesla June 2026 because if they have the largest number of population between other classes. So according to the study by the high number of population can provide more accurate and more precise data. That's why I choose and then randomly select 97 respondents out of the population.
Thank you. Okay, right? Not really. You're doing good. You're doing good so far. And in fact, reading strategies is actually my study and vocabulary. So, as purpose sampling is my method. Maybe like this. First night. Oh, all right.
Yang audience. Kemudian natural kebijakan ini sampai itu nanti supervision of the Faizal Bijak will present to my research under the relationship between strategies used and IPGK RG 2020 A brief introduction. Reading is a process that requires active memory integration and integration to provide person with the ability to obtain information and make adequate representation. You can have your score with that right.
Why don't you just give all?
This shows that reading skill is an important element to as an influencer for a person's academic to progress positively. Regardless, these are the correlation between English and part of skill, and these are reading mathematics and science have less than 3% advanced proficiency and more than 50% no score for all tests. That Therefore, it shows that Malaysian students still have poor reading ability. But according to 2014, language learning strategies are partial cognition and behavior to assist learners from the backseat to the advanced level. Therefore, this is the highlight of my research study, which includes language reading strategies as one of the variables. What the underlying problems that we have is the same for Malaysian students to acquire competence in this field, despite the long learning period due to the teachers' incompetence. Therefore, in order to upgrade the teachers' quality, IPGS has required teaching English as second language national training teachers to achieve C1 as the report as the graduation requirement, which also includes reading skills. And but Ahmad stated that a long period of English learning does not facilitate excellent reading mastery, and further supported by you, that the use of some strategies did not facilitate the reading comprehension. Therefore, it is important for the trainees to really choose the complementing strategies to facilitate their reading skills. And another construct that impedes reading skills is reading anxiety. That in fact causes negative, and therefore these are the problems that this research has three significance, namely for data training in RPG KDRI. By answering one question, they need to understand the impact of the chosen reading strategy on their anxiety level. If it has a high positive correlation, they may have to change their reading strategies to other strategies, and if they learn that anxiety has impeded their reading skill, they should take necessary therapy and practice. For the lecture, they should highlight the practice of reading strategies in reading class, as reading strategies are often disregarded due to the high perception of high language mastery. For FPG Malaysia, they should provide reading programs for trainees reading, but they competence at a high level. With a more financial control, it is a call for medical treatment funding and contribution through collaboration with government and non-government for inventions to ease reading ability. Objective. The first research objective of my study is to find out the most frequent reading strategies used by RPG KDRI 2022 after training, which aligns to the first research question, which is the most frequent reading strategy, followed by the second objective, which is to find out RPG KDRI 2022 after training level of reading strategy, which is what are the after training level of reading ability. And for the third objective, is to find out the relationship between reading strategies used by RPG KDRI, which correlates to the third relationship and their reading ability. For the hypothesis used in this slide is null, as there is no significant relationship between development trainees reading strategies and their reading ability. There are two theories that support my research, which is Piaget's constructivism theory that supports reading strategies instrument. With the three key constructs, it allows learners to construct their reading strategies by utilizing their experience and cognitive ability as the set. It is highlighted by my research instrument. And for the second theory, which is Prussian effective filter hypothesis, mentions that a high level of SIT at non-language learner comprehension competence. And because of my sample is non-language learners, anxiety could be a hindrance in their learning ability. For the first research, I have categorized the first research into three groups that support my research question, which is first problem solving strategy as the most dominant strategy, found out similar by three past research and shows that there is no correlation between the most frequent strategy and reading performance. Meanwhile, the second is high level of reading strategy, whereby four research agree that high level of to a poor reading performance. One correlation between reading strategies and reading anxiety that only shows slight positive correlation. For the conceptual framework, I've used reading strategies as the standard variable that show influence reading, whereby each of the variable has three constructs represented. For the research method, I have used survey as it measures the attributes of the population through video stock questionnaire. And the research sample is I have taken 97 random respondents out of the SOG 2020. For the data collection procedure, firstly, I have chosen a suitable instrument that is validated and amended by the subject matter expert or PPI. And I have conducted my pilot study to the sample of 19 respondents and gained the excellent score of 0.924, which is considered excellent and reliable for the actual study. I then distribute the instrument was in form of Google Form to prevent any missing data. For the data analysis procedure, I have used hierarchical scale to measure mean value and standard deviation, to find the average of the attributes population, and also to find the data distribution to answer the first and second research question. For the third research question, I have used differential analysis, which is Pearson correlation, to find the relationship between the two variables. And all of this is done using SPSS. For the data findings for research question 1, it is found that the most preferred reading strategy is problem-solving strategy, and it is found that the respondents are high strategy users, and also as problem-solving strategy allows learners to utilize their previous knowledge to comprehend the text, it becomes the most preferred strategy among them. For the second RQ, it is found that the respondents have high level of anxiety, and the most contributing construct is their lack of confidence and enjoyment. For the third research question, it is found that there is a present relationship between reading strategies and reading anxiety, but present at a weak level. The positive value shows that reading strategy has impacted reading anxiety, and the null hypothesis is rejected. Because of the high anxiety level, therefore, the respondents may change their reading strategies because it doesn't complement the reading anxiety level. For the discussion, for the most preferred reading strategies, which is problem-solving strategies, supported by 3 fast study with a 5 for the high anxiety level, it has a timing and supported by 4 fast research. And for the correlation, which has a weak correlation, is supported by 1 fast research. The implications. Apart from choosing another different reading strategy, I would suggest lifelong reading motivation that includes personal goals and fatigue that should set the respondents to have positive influence on their attitudes and preference and motivation. As proven, reading motivation promotes reading engagement that leads to positive achievement. Therefore, because high anxiety level is majorly contributed by the lack of enjoyment and confidence, therefore, the respondents must set their motivation right so that they can enjoy the reading process. For the IPG test, I would suggest multimodal approach in reading activity, such as the use of graphic analysis and a slightly sharing session that integrates other sensory stimulation, as it is proven that sensory activities to be effective, especially in foreign language learning. It should ease the reading anxiety and becomes one of the new reading strategies. For the recommendation, I would suggest the future researchers to include a more representative sample from different courses and different IPG of the same cohort to keep the homogeneous value. As for the instrument, because my instrument focuses on self-directed learning, therefore the construct of reading strategies and reading anxiety is not very representative. Therefore, they should use a better, a more representative instrument that integrates other factors and other strategies. For the research method, I suggest a mix of quantitative and qualitative approach to have a better insight on the respondents' views, factors that influence their reading anxiety and strategy.
All right. Good job. Congratulations. You know Diana. Wow. Are you nervous? Wait, relax. Very important, yeah. Diana. Okay. I would like to ask a question from the own capability. If I could see here, you're using judgment and also question. How do you get these two theories towards the end of your mind? Because I do see that you really maybe you forgot to discuss this towards the end. perception, and how does the theory they're using here, is I think very first part, it implies. Okay.
Okay,
How
so
do you
theory, because my null hypothesis is rejected, therefore, this strategy is not really supported by the theories towards data. They just supported the instrument. And so, because my study highlights self-directed learning, therefore, Piaget's constructivism theory supports the idea of self-directed learning as a static instrument. For the enzyme, because it has they have high enzyme level, therefore correction is proven to be right.
when you are using to repair?
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh,
First of all, the title of the teacher's perception on this. For that, my name is okay. And twice moving to the background of study by Chow 1994, stated that showed that drama approach students more opportunities to speak the target linguistic class. And in 2017, drama is a friendly and useful method of teaching the English language. And the third one, drama-based technique is a promising classroom strategy for promoting the development of the language forward learner. If we look back at our title, it focused on the use of drama activities to improve student skills. From its three reference, it focused on speaking, activity and speaking opportunities to speak in class, and the use of drama activities to improve the speaking skills. So, these three reference is for the background. Next, we move to the problem statement. There are 3 points that I want to point out. First one is speaking skills is the hardest skills to achieve according to Starter 2030. And the second one is the factors that affect speaking ability of language students, which is related problem, social related problem, and the last one is untuk Malabika, the English language learners are able to perform or speak well uh, in real life or authentic context. So, language learner need to have good speaking skills to communicate in real situation or authentic situation. Next, uh, there are two research objectives for my study, which is the first one to find out learning teacher perception on the use of drama activities to improve speaking skills, and the second one is to identify the significant difference in perception between male and female teachers on the use of drama activities to improve speaking skills. The research question also consists of two, which is the first one, what is teacher's perception on the use of drama activities to improve skills, and the second one is there any significant difference perception between male and female teachers on the use of drama activities to improve speaking skills. And for my research hypothesis, hypothesis, there is no significant difference in perception between male and female teachers on the use of drama activities to improve speaking skills. Next, there are two significant of the research. The first one, only the use of drama activities in the classroom. The findings, I believe that the findings of the study will contribute the insight of the effectiveness of the use of drama activities in the classroom as a method to speaking skills. And the second one is when we first promoting the use of drama activities, we must need the participate high participation in the drama activities. So we don't promote the drama activities for nothing. So the participation is also needed in the drama method that we use. Okay, so these are all the past research I referred to in for my study. All of this study comes with a positive findings toward use of drama activities and positive perception on the use of drama activities to improve the learner's skills. There are also two research studies integrated in this study. The socio-cultural theory of conflict development and forward we believe that in order to language learner to improve or perform well their speaking skills, they need a social interaction, in social interaction or interaction in a real life scenario. So the development of the speaking can be happen. And for the experience of the animal just as we know, drama activities consist of multiple kinds of such as verbal, religious, kinesthetic, religious, and special religious. Okay. So that's all for my past research. And one is my research design with quantitative survey. And according to President survey is designed quantitative research method in which researcher give questionnaire to a sample or the full population of people to determine the attitudes, opinions, actions, or the features of the population. To find out the perception. For the population example, population is IPG cadet I vessel PLC 2050 for the teacher. And full population is the sample for my study. Stated according to Alicontour, the testing method is total testing method. Alicontour stated that the population is less than 100, it is better to take the whole population. Okay, so my respondent is 70 teachers, and this is my research framework. Where the male and female is the independent variables, and the perception on the use of drama activities to reverse speaking is the dependent variable. Okay. Next for the research instrument, the questionnaire consists of 21 items that are taken from two sources. The first one from Shagova and Paddy. The second one is this month ago at Pola 2019. So for my data classification, first of all, I did prepare the instrument and submit the instrument to JBB, which is Jabatan Penyelidikan Informasi, and get the approval from Tuan Yolina, which is the expert in the right? And after I get the approval for my instrument, I transform the hard copy into the form and start my analysis of 12 religion. And after that, I try the reliability test, which is from Alpha, and this is the reading for from Alpha, which is 0.93, which is a good reading for from Alpha, which means that the items of the questionnaire is reliable. And lastly, I distribute the questionnaire to the sample, the whole sample. Move on to the data analysis procedures. First of all, I transfer the data collected in spreadsheet and recode the data numbers. So I can transfer the data to this software. And the type of data is descriptive analysis and pictorial analysis. For descriptive analysis, the mean, the mode, median, and for experiential analysis, I use speed test because I want to find out the difference in gender. Okay, for my data findings on research question 1, this is the main score inclusion table that I referred to see the degree of perception, clearly perception on the use of drama activity. So, according to this table, my mean for the research question 1 is 4.42. When referred to the table, is where the interpretation is very high. So, the mean value show that any teacher perception on the use of drama activities is very high. That respondent agree that use of drama activities improve their speaking skill. For the research question number 2, the value of significant total or the p value is referred to identify whether there is a different significant difference between male and female training teachers. So my value for significant total is 0.478, which is higher than 0.05. When the p value is higher than 0.05, it means that there is no significant difference. Okay, move on to the discussion. Drama activities improve the listening skills, which is aligned with this two studies conducted by Kalidas and Altun. And for the second research question, there is no significant difference in perception between male and female teachers, which is contrary from the past research by Marianika that conclude that there is a difference in learning method between male and female students. Moving on to the conclusion, for research objective 1, learning teachers' perception on the use of drama activities to improve speaking skill is positive. I analyze the data. Main factor that contributes to improving one's speaking skill is authentic audience and real-life content. For the research objective 2, there is no significant difference in perception between male and female teachers, where in my study, gender does not affect the perception on the use of drama activity. So I have 4 recommendations for future study topic of interest. First one is different sample. Teacher can use different sample to obtain insights or information whether the perception towards the use of drama activity is the same when applied to different sample. And the second one is different design. The teacher researchers can conduct a quantitative study or external research when for the quantity study, the researcher can see how drama activities can improve skills, while for the external research, the drama activities can be used as intervention to solve problems related to speaking skills. The third one is using different research instruments. Mean that research instrument can be more detailed and with more construct uh, which can provide the readers or the researcher with more information, more detailed information about the use of drama activities to improve skills. And last one, use of drama activities to improve other skills. Can provide this study on the use of drama activities to improve other skills. For example, reading skills, and IT skills, for example. So I can provide the all researchers with new information about drama skills, language skills development. There are one to the application. There are two applications for the study. First one is artificial intelligence. You can provide method to use skills for explaining their skill or the use of the and tips towards the use of drama activities. And the second one is artificial lecturers. The lecturers can promote the use of drama activities successful and human drama activities stability because according to the study, when we implement the drama activities or use regularly, it will be more effective to enhance business speaking. Okay, let's stop a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Feel nervous? You look pale.
Oh, okay.
Okay. My question, I just wonder, what do you mean by drama activity, and when and how these, the students carry out these activities?
In my study, drama activities is defined as, for example, drama activities as multi simulation processes that require authentic audience and real life interaction between the one that's speaking and with the audience. Okay. For example, during our previous study, the drama activities is used in literature class, language art class, and the drama subject itself. So that's what I mean by drama.
Okay. Just one second.
Community teaching has been said to have a strong connection with practical. How far is this true? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning. I read to a panel of evaluators and my designated friends. I am Muhammad Zakwan today, and today I'm going to present the findings of my research and its justification with the research title being the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing IPG career guide lessons training teachers for practicum under the guidance of my supervisor, Ms. Fatih Suryati, the teacher. Without further ado, let's begin with the background of the study. A pre-service program known as Bachelor of Teaching, BISMP, is tailored to train primary school teachers, which not only emphasizes the integration of knowledge, but also skills and novel values where training teachers acquire hands-on learning through a transfer of theoretical knowledge to real-life situations. Rashid 2018. Teaching practice, or also known as practicum, is an integral part of the PISMP program, in which training teachers are required to put into practice all the concepts, principles, skills, and values, and apply the theories that they have learned in the classroom in order to become a quality and professional teacher. Mahmoud 2015. So as to help English training teachers bridge the theory with application, simulated teaching is offered as part of the PISMP program through the TSLB courses. TSLB 3063, which is the teaching of listening and speaking skills in the primary ESL classroom. TSLB 3073, teaching of reading and writing skills in the primary ESL classroom. And TSLB 3083, which is teaching of grammar in the primary ESL classroom. Moving on to the statement of the problem. According to McIntyre, McNeil, and Griffiths, 2018, the training teachers claim that their pre-service training through simulated teaching seems to be of little to no help. And according to Chin, 2019, the efficacy of simulated teaching has been questioned by many educationists. According to Heibel et al., 2019, there are a huge number of training teachers who are not ready physically and mentally to face the reality in the classroom, where it is time for them to go for practical. And according to Bell, in 2020, some of the training teachers regarded simulated teaching as fake teaching. Therefore, due to the all concern expressed, a survey was carried out among PISMP testers June 2020-2034 to find out the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing them for practicum, so that its significance and relevancy can be highlighted. Now, moving on to the research objective and research question. In this research consists of 3 research objectives and 3 research questions. IQ1 is what are the IPG KDRI tester training teachers' perceptions of the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing them for their practicum. IQ2, is there any significant difference between male and female IPG KDRI tester training teachers' perception of the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing them for practicum? And IQ3, is there any correlation between the perceptions of simulated teaching and attitudes towards simulated teaching among the IPG KDRI tester training teachers? Now, this research has 2 research hypotheses. The first one is the null hypothesis, which is there is no significant difference between male and female IPG KDRI tester training teachers' perception of the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing them for practicum. And the second hypothesis is alternative hypothesis. There is a correlation between the perception of simulated teaching and attitude towards simulated teaching among the IPG KDRI tester training teachers. Moving on to the conceptual framework, the independent variables, there are 2 independent variables in this research. The first one is IPG KDRI tester training teachers' perception of simulated teaching. IP number 2 is IPG KDRI training teachers' attitudes towards simulated teaching. And the dependent variable is the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing IPG KDRI tester training teachers for practicum. And the IP is in these 2 IPs are influenced by the dependent variables, which means that their perception and their attitudes will influence the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing them for practicums. Next is significance of the research. This research is significant to the IPGM training teachers. This is because if training teachers fail to see the importance of simulated teaching, they will not be able to polish their teaching skills and enhance their communication skills. And this research is also significant to tester lecturers. This is because tester lecturers can adopt different strategies to help training teachers and to make the most of the simulated teaching that is offered in TSLB courses. And last but not least, this research is significant to the whole school that the practical teachers go for their practicum. This is because the whole school will discover that simulated teaching is a platform for training teachers to practice teaching in order for them to face the real situation when they go for their practical. So there are 3 These research are significant to these three stakeholders. Next is related past research. The first one is Munirah and Zuwati, 2018, with the research titled The Efficacy of Simulated Teaching in Preparing Pre-Service Teachers for Practicum. This research is conducted in University of Malaya, and the researchers employed mixed method research methodology. The findings, however, were limited to undergraduates. Next is G 2018, Pre-Service Elementary School English Teachers Learning Reflection through Simulated Teaching Practice. This research was conducted at a language teacher program in Taiwan. Please note that this research is an international researcher, and she employed a qualitative research design with 43 pre-service teachers. Next is Zanaria and Nufariza, 2019. The research title being The Perceptions of Better Teacher Training Towards the Effectiveness of Micro Teaching Subject, SPA 2001, in preparing them for teaching practice. These researchers employ qualitative and quantitative research methodology, which is a far cry from the present research, which only employ a quantitative research. Moving on to the next researchers, which is Wan Zarina and Nick Azraini, 2019, a study on micro teaching as perceived by UTM TESOL undergraduates. These researchers adopted the same research design with the current research, which is quantitative research design. The findings, however, only limited to UTM TESOL undergraduates. Therefore, the current research will study in depth about the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing IPG TESOL training teachers for practice. Okay, next, moving on to the research design. This research employed a quantitative survey. This is because conducting survey research is an efficient means of gathering a large amount of data from IPG KDRI TESOL training teachers regarding their opinion. As for the population example, population is 71, and according to criteria Morgan table 1970, when population is 70, the sample is 59. And as for the respondents of the research, in IPG KDRI TESOL training teachers PISMP June 2020-2024, who have conducted a series of simulated teaching in PSLD courses and who have undergone practical phase 1 in the preceding semester. Next, moving on to the instrument data collection. The researcher modified existing instruments from past studies by Munirah 2018 and Nur Fariza 2019. The questionnaire was distributed online using Google Forms, and the questionnaire comprises 3 sections. Section A, demographic information. Section B, perceptions of simulated teaching. Section C, attitudes towards simulated teaching. And there were 25 items in total. The questionnaire is presented in the form of 10-point Likert scale. Why I use 10-point Likert scale? This is because 10-point Likert scale gives a much broader spread of the options, hence yielding a clear indicative result in comparison to 5-point Likert scale. Next is data collection procedures, which is the first one is obtaining approval from the experts, which are supervisor and JBB. The instruments were first checked by my supervisor and later approved by the JBB. The instruments were then amended based on their feedback. Next, administering pilot study. The questionnaire was piloted to 10 respondents of PISMP TESOL June 2020-2024. Next, measuring reliability of items. Tromba alpha coefficient was computed to measure the reliability of items using XPSS version 22.0. Next is conducting data connection. The questionnaire was distributed online via WhatsApp to collect the data. And last but not least is analyzing the data. The data were analyzed descriptively and inferentially using XPSS version 22.0. Moving on to the data analysis procedure. SPSS version 22.0
were utilized to analyze the data descriptively and inferentially to answer the research question number 1, and the data were analyzed inferentially using independent tests to answer the RQ2, and there is inferential analysis using Pearson correlation to answer RQ3. Moving on to the heart of today's presentation, data findings. Okay, the first RQ1 is the level of perception can be interpreted as high if all the mean scores are greater than 6.68 on a 10-point Likert scale. As you can see here, the highest mean is 8.68 and the lowest mean is 6.85, which shows that the range of the means are within 6.68 until 10. And this suggests that the majority of the respondents have good respondents of simulated teaching. Next is data findings for RQ2 is that an independent test analysis revealed a difference of 0.10 point between the two groups. This p-value is not statistically significant because it is more than the alpha value. P-value is equal to 1.4, which is greater than 0.05. Therefore, there is no significant difference between male and female IPG-KDRI tested training teachers' perceptions of the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing them for practicum. Therefore, the null hypothesis is accepted. Moving on to the RQ3, the findings reveal that the Pearson correlation coefficient R is equal to 0.768. The relationship between the two variables is considered strong when the R value is larger than 0.70, according to Gravitter 2008. Therefore, there is a positive, strong linear relationship between the perceptions of simulated teaching and attitudes towards simulated teaching. The alternative hypothesis is accepted. Next, moving on to the discussions. RQ1, perceptions of simulated teaching. Mean is 7.98 and standard deviation is 0.96, which is high. The current findings were in line with previous findings in the literature conducted by No Farida 2019. RQ number 2, the perceptions of simulated teaching between gender, which is between male and female. The p-value is 0.14, which is greater than 0.05. This p-value is not statistically significant because the p-value is greater than 0.05. The current findings were consistent with findings from prior research conducted by Zanaria 2019. And lastly, RQ3, correlation, perception versus attitude. The R value computed is 0.768, which is high. Supporting the current finding was the past study carried out by Munira 2018 in University of Malaya. Moving on to the next slide is conclusion. RQ1, the findings of the present study revealed that the IPG-KDRI tested training teachers of PISMP June 2020 2024 perceived simulated teaching offered in the ESLB courses as an effective way to prepare for their practicum. In conclusion for Article 2, the IPG-KDRI tested training teachers of PISMP 2020-2024 have similar positive perceptions of simulated teaching because there is no significant difference between male and female IPG-KDRI tested training teachers' perception of the efficacy of simulated teaching in preparing them for practicum. And lastly, RO3, there is a strong correlation between the perception of simulated teaching and attitude towards simulated teaching among the IPG-KDRI tested training teachers. Moving on to the implication of this research, the first one is Institute Penyelidikan Guru Malaysia. This is because the findings will shed light on the effectiveness of simulated teaching in preparing training teachers for practicum. This helps IPGM to judge to what extent the findings can be or cannot be generalized to other training teachers at different campuses. Next is language department lecturers. The language department lecturers will benefit from the findings. Why? Because they will gain insight into training teachers' perception of simulated teaching, and therefore the lecturers can adopt different strategies to train them. Next is school administrators. school administrators will learn of the fact that simulated teaching is a platform for training teachers to practice teaching and then and develop an understanding of how IPGM exposes training teachers to the realities of teaching before they go for their practicum. Therefore, the school administrator can help training teachers to grow professionally at school, especially when they encounter problems in the classroom. And lastly, this research is significant to teacher training program, PISMP, because the findings can provide concrete evidence for the accreditation from MQA, given that the program meets the standard for teacher training. IPGM will therefore be recognized for its importance in training and preparing pre-service teachers for practical and teaching professionalism. And lastly is the recommendation. It is highly suggested for future researchers to have a different research, to have a bigger research population, because this will help them to ensure the findings are free from biases and they can get collective opinions from respondents. Next is research instrument. It is highly suggested for future researchers to employ the most recent instrument in the research. This is because in order to maintain validity and reliability of items in the instrument, they can modify the previous research instrument, and therefore they will gain a useful insight on teachers' training perception. And lastly is research design. It is highly suggested for future researchers to employ a different research design, which is a qualitative research. This is because it can explore the different perceptions of simulated teaching between gender and develop a detailed understanding of training teachers' perception of simulated teaching. This is because rather than relying on statistical procedures, future researchers can analyze words by grouping them into larger meanings of understanding, such as codes, categories, and themes. This way, future researchers can obtain more comprehensive and detailed findings from various perspectives. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. That one very enthusiastic delivery. A very interesting topic. Okay, can we look back at your past research? Okay, here you list out all the topic, the title of the research, but what are the findings from all this research?
The findings of this research.
Yeah.
The efficacy of, like I stated in the conclusion, the current findings are in line with the previous studies conducted by Munirah and Wati, despite using a different research design, because they conducted an interview with the tester trainees. So the findings are aligned with the current study, which is the male and female training teachers agree that micro teaching offered in the courses helps them a lot in preparing them for their practicum. And for this pre-service elementary school, the respondents were 43 respondents, and they agree that there is a correlation between the perceptions of simulated teaching and attitudes towards simulated teaching.
Yeah. Thank you. Congratulations, that's fine. Are you presenting your country already? Six in classroom?
Yes.
We're coming back to your particular problem. All right. I remember when it comes to this advanced research, you did mention about the limitations of each of these studies. May I know your limitation of the study?
This study is limited to IPGKRI necessary teachers with PISMP 2020, 2024 only, given the fact that these are the only batches gone through for their practical, and in comparison to the current one, which is 2021 intake. Therefore, I think the research findings are only limited to the PX and P-tester June 2020, 2024 intake. Thank you.
Orang ambil kan ada dalam bilik tu.
Oh, okey. Nak ayam ikan keluar kan? So budak dah ambil okey.
Dah bagi dah tadi. Bagi dah. Are you hungry? Okay. Maybe two more.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our second panel. Also, my fellow presenters as well as members of the board. So, I am Habib Sidin Hussein from Multimedia as a teacher 2024. And the title for my research is first languages on using flip to teach speaking skills in your family as a classroom under the solution Madam Sumana bin Ahmad. Alright, moving on to the background of the So as we all know, Malaysian education system has begun under significant restructuring and adjustment. So according to draft president of 2024, the government is responsible for providing high quality education to all Malaysians from preschool to university. Even though there are some significant there are some several issues that we as a student especially encountered, which is students want to succeed in English, but speaking anxiety prevents them from doing so. This is according to Bagan Studies et al. In 2020. So teachers are encouraged to employ to new language approaches, which is teachers using technology for the language acquisition efficiently by using various approaches are vital, according to Amadi 2018. So thus, technology like flip, student motivation have affected teachers' use of technology in the classroom. So, with this in mind, it's imperative for teachers to employ new approaches in the language classroom, which is flip, or commonly known as flip, as the platform to teach speaking skills in the primary and secondary room. So moving on to the problem statement. So for the first problem, because of the shyness and fear of making mistakes, primary school pupils lack confidence in their abilities. in that immediate case, I'm sorry. The story about this is according to story about that at all in 2013. So the factors of shyness and fear of making mistakes hinders them from being able to express them freely. Second, moving on to the second problem, which is according to Miska and Sardabi, 2018, it is contributing that most Malaysian graduates struggle with English writing and speaking by learning it in kindergarten. So even though they have been exposed to the language in kindergarten, they still struggle to use it properly. So this second problem focuses on higher level of education, which is tertiary education. So moving on to the third problem, which is anxiety can limit their speech even when they have ideas. This is called communication nervousness. So this is according to also according to Vishal Padari in 2018. So it can what can be implied is anxiety, even though we have an idea to speak, but because of the anxiety, they have taken over the situation. It caused some communication nervousness, which lead to the difficulties in delivering the speech. So therefore, this problem will cause students to perform poorly owing to a lack of effort as well as teaching effective teaching strategy. So moving on to the research purpose. So my research objective is to investigate the production of ability characteristics certain teachers on using flip to teach speaking skills in the primary as a classroom. Second, to identify the differences in perception between male and female teachers from LGBTQI in terms of using flip to teach speaking skills, to improve speaking skills. So as we all know, research questions are formulated based on the research objective. So these two research questions are formulated based on the MyRO. So moving on to the research hypothesis, I use null hypothesis, which is there is no significant difference in perception between male and female teachers in terms of using it to improve my speaking skills and to improve speaking skills. So moving on to the research significance. So there are three stakeholders that can be that can get benefit from my findings, which is first, classical training teachers in IPG. So from the findings, it can provide assistance to training teachers in promoting the use of a digital technology to knowledge play. It also findings from research can also highlight the advantages of incorporating flip in their teaching and learning sessions, especially to teach English speaking skills. Second, to the TEFL lectures in IPG. So, the findings from this research can encourage teachers to implement student-centered and dynamic teaching methods. So, it has been demonstrated that numerous lecturers in IPG, especially JBB lecturers, have integrated the use of flip in terms of when doing their tutorial sessions, which is students are given tasks and they can express or giving their opinion through the platform, which is Flip. Second, last but not least is IPG Malaysia, which is provide insight to teachers on oral communication challenges. So this knowledge might guide the development of initiative to address those challenges. So moving on to the research theories. So there are different research theories that have been incorporated in this study. First, I have incorporated this monitor hypothesis proposed by Stephen Krashen in 1970s. So Krashen emphasizes the intentional language monitoring and correction in language acquisition. So according to Raju and Josh in 2018, there are three categories of students, which is highly monitored, moderately monitored, and low monitored students. So these three category students, according to them, they are highly monitored students are reluctant to speak, while those who are low monitored students don't mind making mistake when speaking. So by integratively to teach speaking skills, students have more freedom to speak without being monitored by the teacher. Second theory, which is interaction hypothesis by Michael Long, that was proposed in 1981. So, Michael Long highlight the interaction between teachers and advanced learners to improve speaking skills in order to meet the learning objectives of the lesson. students. By integrating flip in the speaking skill, it can facilitate effective communication by helping those who are in need by through their interaction within the enhanced students or the teacher with the other students who are lack of capability to speak properly. Second, last but not least, which is technology acceptance, or known as PAM, proposed by Fred Davis in 1986. So this theory was established to analyze computer technology acceptability. This is according to the Rock et al. 2017. So by using this theory, it's relevant to assess teacher training views of flip and also encourage the use of flip. Moving on to the past research, there are three local researchers and also six internal researchers that have been based on the study, which is first first research, which is was done by Shane and Mike Yunis in 2021 with the title "Detectives of People Towards Using Flipgrid in Learning English Speaking Skill." So this research was um, used design mixed method approach involving 60 primary year 4 students. So the instruments that were used were questionnaire, semi-structured interviews, and the findings shows that primary students like using Flip to learn English, and also Flip offers new way to learn English in more meaningful and enjoyable. Second, the second research was done by Akoba and John in 2022, which with the title "Attitudes of Primary Teacher Education Program Students Utilizing Flipgrid in English Speaking Skills." This was also was done with the research design mixed method approach involving 6 students of 20 teachers. So the instruments that were used were questionnaire, observation, and semi-structured interviews. So also the findings from this research, the 20 teachers agree that Flip boosts their confidence and also Flip encourage them to talk better. Moving on to the conceptual framework, as we all know, conceptual framework serves as a delineation of what potential predictions might derive from the findings. So my independent variables, which is the variables that influence perception, which is ease of use, usefulness, attitude toward use, and also behavior intention. And my dependent variable was the perception of abuse assessment features on using speaking skills in the coming years. So all of these independent variables are influencing the dependent variable. Moving on to the methodology of this study. So I have used a quantitative research, which is a survey research. So the sampling for this research, I was targeted on IPG KRI PXNP until June 2020-2024, and the population was 70 respondents, and the sample was taken from the population was now 59 respondents according to Fergie and Morgan's sampling table 1970. So moving on to the pilot study. So the pilot study was done involving 10 participants who were chosen randomly. As we all, according to Levin et al. 2021, pilot study sample varies from 10 to 15 per group, according to groups 10, 60 to 75 per group, depending on the study's main purpose. So this is my comma alpha value for after I've corrected my pilot study, which is 0.867 with the with number of items 24. So according to Tamakol and Jennings 2011, alpha values between 0.70 and 0.95 are acceptable. Maximum of 0.99 is advised. So my Chroma alpha values is acceptable, and this shows that my instrument is valid and reliable. So moving on to the research instrument, my research instrument that was used for the study was questionnaire involving 5 lighted scale. There are 5 sections, which is section A, demographic profile, section B, percentage of use, section C, percentage usefulness, section D, attitudes for use. And all the overall question for this instrument, which is 24 questions. So the question was adapted from several studies. So these are the several studies that are adapted in order to employment business instruments. So moving on to the data collection and analysis procedure. So a questionnaire was prepared from several past studies and got approval from the supervisor. Like after my supervisor has approved the instrument, The instrument was sent to JBPI for verification and validation by the expert. My instrument has been validated and verified by Puan Rodiana. So the instrument validity and reliability were tested with 10 respondents in the pilot study. After that, a Google form link was distributed to the class representative to ensure respondent participation. So for data analysis procedure, I have used descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. For descriptive, I use to determine mean score to SSS based on the mean score interpretation table according to Zaki and Anwar in 2017. It is to answer R21. And second, for efficient statistics, it is to determine the significant value from key test in SPSS in order to answer RQ2. So let's move to the data findings from this study. So the overall perception, which is perception is 4.11, which indicates according to the mean score interpretation first, which is high. So the mean value show the overall teacher training perceptions is high, and also teacher trainings can be concluded that have positive perception in terms of integrating flip in to teach speaking skills in the farming as a classroom. So based on all the construct section before, the perceived usefulness was chosen as the highest construct with a mean of 4.33, and maybe it can show that training teachers like to use flip based in terms of their the useful of flip. Moving on to the second research question, which is to determine to find or identify the differences in perception between male and female teachers. So the significant value is 0.18. So the results show that there is no significant differences in perception between male and female teachers in terms of using flip to teach speaking skills. So the significant future value is more than 0.05, which is 0.18. And thus, the number of cases for this research is accepted. Moving on to the discussion, so perception shows that training teachers have positive perception as can be influenced through the perceived usefulness of flip with a mean of 4.23 and standard deviation 0.53, which indicates a very high positive perception. And this aligns with the research done by Shin and Yunus 2021 that students have a positive attitude towards using flip grades. Second, there is no significant differences in perception between male and female teachers in order to use flip to improve speaking skills. This research findings aligns with the research done by Kovac and Taskin 2012 that there is no significant difference between males and females to use technology. So moving on to the conclusion. So all the findings for the research can be concluded that classroom teachers have positive perceptions of using flip to teach speaking skills in the primary SI classroom. So the key reason or the main reason for trained teachers to utilize flip in teaching speaking skills was its usefulness in order to assess students' rank in speaking skills. From the integration of flip, it helps trained teachers to assess, to know the levels of their students' speaking level. Second, research objective 2, there is no significant difference in perceptions between male and female teachers, and the significant value is more than 0.05. So this indicates that both male and female teachers think flip improve speaking skills. Moving on to the recommendation. So the researcher suggested for future researchers to research on immersive reader in flip to integrate reading skills. So by incorporating reading skills with flips, immersive reader features to explore more of the use of flip in teaching English as a second language. Second, research population and sample. So a larger sample can improve data accuracy and provide more diverse can be done with the different dates or different students. Second, last but not least, which is research design. So qualitative study can provide respondents' opinion on utilizing flip to teach speaking skills in their primary classroom, and it can provide more detailed data to the teacher. moving on to the implications. So this research has two implications to TESOL training teachers as well as the IBG TESOL lecturers. So there are several benefits that TESOL teachers can get by integrating flip in their teaching and learning session. It is to proactively encourage the use of flip. As we all know, flip has been a great help for teachers, especially to engage the students and to increase the participation of students, especially during speaking activities, and also to enhance their teaching and learning session. So by making it more interactive, by making it more enjoyable, yeah, teaching can be more can inspire students to generate more genuine passion in order to acquire the language acquisition between students. And last but not least, which is to actively tester lecturers, which is to essentially guide teachers in implementing student-centered and dynamic teaching strategies. Um, so from that, teachers can guide the teachers in designing activities to create more impactful, more creative activities, especially for speaking, so that students can improve their speaking capability as a whole in order to meet with the current CFR standard. So with that, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I'm happy to say that you will have applied the theories that you played last semester. Okay, I'm a lagging in terms of technology. Okay, so can you please explain in detail how the split works?
Alright. Oh no. So Flip, I'm sure Flip has been most of my part we are very familiar with Flip as we have been used this platform in order to practice our speaking skills in order to attain C1 during previous active tests. So Flip basically is a platform where this teacher can provide it's like a Google Classroom but in a video format. So teachers can give instruction or task to the Flip, and then students can add response, give comment by responding to video. So they can record themselves, talk, express themselves, give opinion or their thoughts on the certain topic, and then they upload the videos, and then teachers can provide immediate feedback. That's why from the video, teachers can provide immediate feedback, and then students can improve or which can be can be from the speaking skills especially. So yeah, that's why I think it is very interactive in digital tool as I have implemented Flip before for during my previous practicum at SKF. I still find it really enjoyable, really they're all eager to submit the responses. So it is very interactive and enjoyable digital platform to utilize to teach speaking skills.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah. But my question for one day, knowing how this is speaking, but you have to set the question you can ask, right? Because I was wondering how does the initiate switch to the field to be speaking. So that's an answer because wasn't really clear in the beginning. So sleep was not something that I really clear.
So from that, maybe encourage more the use of play with the students, and then get familiarized with the digital play. But I hope yes, yeah, it's an app and use to mobile phone or laptop.
Or maybe we can use that to start for the subject language acquisition.
Yes.
Instead of doing the presentation in front.
Yes, instead of it can be remotely done anywhere, everywhere. So the student does not strictly have to stick in the classroom, so they can just be anywhere and then provide response. Even though the class was done asynchronously, but the lecturer still get the response from the student. So it can improve and then also enhance the teaching as well as the learning session.
We only have 4 more presenters. How hungry are you?
You hungry?
I'm eaten.
Oh,
Oh.
I'm eaten.
yeah, we have taken over breakfast.
So you want to go have breakfast now? The next presenter. There are only four left. So you want to go have breakfast first? Then come back. Coffee, or are you too nervous to eat?
Kind of.
Like, carry out the presentation first.
Yeah, you want to proceed
Yeah, proceed.
with the presentation, and then we're left with only 3 more.
Yeah.
Presentation. It's a clean brand.
Yeah.
The form is here.
Oh, I got it. Because I counted here. What the difference is today, right? Sometimes, we have 10.
How to usage and investigate the coalition and the information of the the first, translating the language is considered an important aspect to be learned. When children abilities and you have training to learn the language. Develop of that. To ensure that the students must master the written comprehension and it plays a vital role in learning which acquisition. So students will be able to acquire information, comprehend and however, of English is therefore mostly people religion and it can be attributed to the inability of vocabulary. And this study is conducted to be known is the correlation between vocabulary mastery and comprehension. That is the statement of the problem. The major problem here is that students lack of vocabulary knowledge when acquiring language abilities of language learning. Vocabulary is taken as a crucial factor that must be prioritized. That is something I am proud to say that a crucial factor for the most vulnerability is the language part. So based on this will be able the language and will not be able to have the with English language. One of the importance of vocabulary because in Malaysia it has no language vocabulary and a restricted vocabulary based on the actual research by B and me. They not common with the case. This group it does not only occur in Malaysia, but also an international issue as according to Jordan, Moreni, and Suga, Indonesian pupils are described as confused when reading that and it can be due to lack of vocabulary. If this issue to be solved immediately, the no vocabulary must be caused students to struggle with language acquisition. Without vocabulary, students won't be able to acquire the knowledge and then learn the knowledge itself. Communication will prevent language understanding and act as a barrier to comprehend that. If not completely, yeah, secondary school with good grade of English language. Okay, it's a methodology. And then let's make the correlation between vocabulary mastery and reading comprehension. Based on my research question is what is the level of students' vocabulary knowledge? And is there any correlation shown between students' vocabulary mastery and reading comprehension? Then it comes to the research hypothesis that there is a relationship between vocabulary mastery and reading comprehension. The research is considered as important because it can be impressions of how well students are performing. So this research is expected to benefit all parties, teachers, researchers, and teacher training. For the teachers and schools, they will be able to gain an insight of the students' level of vocabulary knowledge and then counter the problem. As for the researchers and teacher training, it will depend their understanding of vocabulary of the relationship between vocabulary mastery and its comprehension, and thus conduct a bigger scale of research. That is the research and research. To ensure is a local research that revealed that 50 students agreed that low mastery of vocabulary affected its comprehension. The results evident at the on the other hand, is the above research that states students with greater vocabulary score get high marks on reading comprehension tests. So based on these two past research, it shows an identical result where vocabulary mastery affect the reading comprehension. So the research design is a quantitative where time is implemented as the research instrument that the data. My population is 47 people and I have 10 people for the private society. And there will be no second method of this number of population. As suggested by Esther Musa, that the population is the number of the and there will be two different classes for the research instrument. The first one, the vocabulary class, consists of 20 multiple choice questions. This class is extracted from a book titled Classification and is modified to fit the student's level of vocabulary. On the other hand, the class consists of 3 passages and 15 questions and is taken from UPS application. This test tool is modified to fit the student's level of knowledge. And both that only consists of A1 and A2 level of vocabulary, since the level, the student level is at A1 and A2, so that the student can comprehend the question well. As for the validity, both of the tests is verified by Jabatan Penyelidikan. As for the reliability, the score from the pilot study is assessed to find out the output from that score to see if the test is reliable or not. So finally, it shows that both of the tests are reliable and can be administered to the students. Okay, data collection procedure submitting a research proposal to the provider, and then the test on the group. Data collected from pilot studies using the to find out the reliability of the test. When the test is reliable, considered reliable, then I think the test is the sample, which is the point ever responded. Finally, analyze the test to find the mean score, the grade, and find the correlation to the there will be two research. The first one is the descriptive analysis that is applied to answer the research question 1. The data collected will be analyzed in SPSS to find the mean score to determine the student's level of vocabulary knowledge, and because of the mark of the converted into percentage also the student's level of vocabulary knowledge, but based on the grade. In contrast, question analysis is applied to answer the research question 2. Since my research was conducted to find out the correlation between two variables, here's the correlation score. That's the for research question 1. Okay. referring to the table shows the mean score of the vocabulary set. It shows 10.74, which indicates that this score demonstrates good level of knowledge. Then, according to Brown and Abdullah, pupils should be able to answer 20% of overall 4 option multiple choice questions. It means since my vocabulary consists of 10 questions, they should be able to answer 5 questions correctly. So since the mean score shows that the score is 10.74, which means that they answer 10 questions correct, means the level of vocabulary is at good level. Next is the data point for question 1 but based on grade. So referring to the table, there are 4 pupils that achieve 8 grades in vocabulary test. However, according to Hussein and Sulaiman, concerning the grade, 90% of the overall to be identified as mastering the knowledge grade. So even though there are 4 students that achieve 8 grades in vocabulary test, there are only 3 pupils that score 90% and higher in vocabulary test. So only 3% are considered. Last one is the data for research question 2 to find out the correlation comprehension. So the score for the reading Pearson correlation is 0.52, which according to Shiver, Moore, and Shaw, the answer from 0.40 to 0.9 indicates moderate correlation. Since the value is 0.52, which is leading the archive suggested, it shows that the correlation there is a moderate correlation between reading comprehension. Furthermore, according to Arthur there is a correlation between 2 variables. The score shows that it is a positive 0.552. So there is a positive correlation between vocabulary mastery and reading comprehension, where vocabulary mastery positively affects the reading comprehension. That means that if the vocabulary mastery increases, then the score for the reading comprehension. That is discussion and conclusion. I would like to take what the first session. Okay, as I have explained for vocabulary, student vocabulary is at the good level, and if the vocabulary is at good level, students should be able to score good in reading comprehension test. If the findings correlate with the correct study but inherently to their time, as the result that there is correlation between vocabulary mastery and reading comprehension. The findings of research correlate with the findings from the first research. There is a correlation between vocabulary mastery and reading comprehension. So, the conclusion is at good level and reading comprehension. To have better skills, to make sure that students have better skill in reading, teachers must focus on the vocabulary. Okay, next recommendation priority. Okay, vocabulary not start at in the classroom, but so students should be familiarized with the word with constant exposure. That they can hold a program specifically for vocabulary study, such as have a book organized book where students can learn the new vocab, find the meaning themselves, and then set on the word list so that they can remember. And then for the researchers, they can conduct a large scale study with the same team, like expanding the population. For example, they can choose Johor by from that is they can apply to differential and since my research focus on the Pearson correlation, the researchers can have a future research that uses that. And the last one is okay, through the vocabulary test, you can see that there are excellent and there are also students that only score 3 in vocabulary test. So the excellent students can be the mentor for the students that have basic vocabulary. And the last one is okay. This research has resulted to a few implications. The first one is to the administrator, where we dive into the problem sustaining the pupil's performance and settle the status of student achievement. So, for example, if there is a vocabulary competition organized by the schools, different schools, they will know which students can apply for the competition. Next is for the teacher. The teacher can example and identify students with areas such as synonyms, antonyms, and types of based on the findings of my research, it shows that students are weak at synonyms, antonyms, and types of containing of time. They cannot understand, comprehend well the functions that involve time. So teachers can adapt improve the students' vocabulary based on the synonyms and last one is teacher where program on how to deal with activity and also the findings of this research can act as guideline for the research. Actually, when working my research, there are not a lot of research about the vocabulary study and reading comprehension that was done in Malaysia. There's only one that of every student. So this research who can add.
Thank you, Regina. Okay, can you show the findings for research question 2? Yeah. Okay, can you just explain what it means by moderate correlation?
Moderate correlation means that there is a correlation, but it is not high enough. Means what it can affect the correlation, but it also not not but not at
Moderate.
middle.
Okay. Talking about vocabulary, you do have two types of vocabulary, right? Vocabulary knowledge that we stated, which is vocabulary depth. Another one is now between vocabulary depth and breadth is that vocabulary knowledge or known as vocabulary knowledge. Now, may I know why do you choose vocabulary knowledge instead of vocabulary depth? The depth of breadth.
Uh,
Depth and breadth. Differences. You are not there. So why do you choose knowledge? Now, vocabulary knowledge, depth is the meaning. You have to know the vocabulary meaning. Where breadth is just the number of words. It's just matter. Right? Yeah, you choose the meaning.
uh,
Vocabulary knowledge, nothing.
so if the students only know the vocabularies, just know the numbers of vocabularies, they cannot apply it in their everyday life. Because they only have it is a depth, but they don't know what is the function of that, or they know that it is a it is a but it's not what function. So I will check them. I focus on the vocabulary knowledge and I want to investigate if they really know the meaning of the vocabulary stated in the text. So for example, in the vocabulary text, there I stated the question such as what the nut. So if they do not know that the nut function of butternut, they choose the butterspoon or butterform.
Okay, let's continue. Do you think 20 questions is enough for the test?
Actually, yes, I think it is enough because they are not
lots of words that for vocabulary taken from
Taking progress is that taking concept study, a good method study, and analyzing, good self-analysis, and then if the changing of the P1 or P1, so I change it.
to the level. So you put
Yes.
the
A1 and A2.
okay. Break time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay!
Ketika, buat ketika, okay lah. Okay lah. Okay, dua. We have food also provided lecture and sponsored some food. Okay, so
You son really.
we are not was there waiting for all the quiz to come.
Dia ada appointment tu, appointment gigi.
Oh. What is the next one? Oh. You are the topic that you presented is exactly what I am doing. And actually there's something that I don't Right. And I mobile app on vocabulary bodies.
Okay, go enjoy the quiz. I posted some bread and also okay. Oh, it's you. Kena buat ni, pergi practical last practical. Dia yang dah habis. Cepat je. Tengah orang dah habis lah. I will get private student. Justified.
Yeah.
Dari apa ni sekolah ni? You going back on Wednesday for Deepavali? Wednesday, right? After class on Wednesday. So Wednesday ada kelas 2 jam. Okay, Iman. Memang saja. Itulah yang kita buat. Tapi tak boleh sebut. Dua sekolah tak ada kelas. Dia tengok dua orang di kelas. Wednesday pagi kita buat di kelas.
Tak boleh nak kelaskan tak? Dia orang of the same school ke kat punya student?
Dia two different schools. Dia dua orang satu sekolah. Okay. Okay. Nak pergi sekolah, nak tanda thesis. Itu ni.
This is yang the student class kan?
Nak suruh dia kena buat correction lagi. Lepas tu dia nak present untuk kalau nak tulis artikel.
they tend to seek out for patterns in their communication. This is stated by Buckingham. For the second story, I choose to graph by the story. Where the key ideas of the stories are social interaction and play. So basically, pupils are encouraged to interact with the lyrics, with the music, and also they could also interact with the kids, the song in the classroom. Okay, by doing that, they also could achieve ideas and also social learning happens by this is stated by Natalia. Right, so my conceptual paper, the independent variable for this so for my first research, I choose local and abroad first research, which is from the local is from the Malaysian English teachers perspective. I'm from teaching English to young learners by Russell in 2009. And next, local first research is by Shane Nuriati in 2016, which is the title is using song in English speaking for young learners. Okay, for the abroad, student perceptions on use of English songs, student pronunciation by Irawan, Nataso, and Fadiano. The last one is student perceptions toward the use of English songs or skills by Afnilian, Piny, and Holland in 2000. So basically, almost all of the findings in this research is similar, where the first participant is Malaysian primary school English teachers at the top. And also the second one is the finding of this first research. For the second one, they try to investigate the process of speaking. And for the abroad, there are two perceptions that finally agree on the use of as a media of learning English student pronunciation, and there's also a positive responses. And for the last one, the students have a great experience from. So for the methodology of my research study, opportunity where there are strategies just can be implemented. And I just had a pilot study for this sample and also 60% and also I use design and my research design and for the research approach I use a questionnaire survey where I use a 5-point of rating score 1 to 5 and from levels of the first rating score for 1 from 3 and until 5. Okay, for the research instrument, I use online questionnaire where which are divided into sections. The first section is demographic information, and the second section is the perception of better English with the use of English pop songs to improve people's pronunciation. So the last one is data analysis, where I use SPSS case by the first 19 on the first 19, the number of participants in the range between 10 and 20. My correct alpha is 0.973, which is an acceptable level of reliability for the still by alpha. So it's range from 0.1, 0.41, and it shows that accuracy is indicated by scores more than 0.7, while the accuracy is indicated by values and 0.90 by Bulgarian 1000. So before I administer the questionnaire today to my sample, I seek for approval from the pusat penyelidikan first, and after they approve my survey, I then do a pilot study with test samples, test questionnaire, reliability and validity. And then after I have done my pilot study, I distribute a survey of my via WhatsApp. So for my data analysis, I use deep information level by Ali and Basta. So for my first question, for my research question is what are the perceptions of whether to improve so as you can see, the mean of this perception is 4.08, where it shows that teachers' perception is high for okay, the next one is there any significant difference between male and female using English pop song to improve pupils' pronunciation? So you see that the feedback is more than 0.5. When the p value is more than 0.5, it shows that there is no gender, male and female. Okay, so for my discussions on the binding case, I use SPSS and I already seen that I use the from Ali and Basta, and the respondents agreed that using English pop is a effective way to improve pupils' pronunciation. Okay, for the second, I use the independent test to answer the second research question. And the finding also shows that there is no okay, so the conclusion from my research finding is it shows that perceptions of teachers with the use of English pop songs to improve people's pronunciation is positive because the mean is high. And for the second one, is for the event second test, I need to produce a p value of 0.17, which is higher than 0.5, and it shows that the hypothesis is a non-hypothesis and it is accepted. Recommendation for my future researcher is a larger sample size to conduct study that includes other IPG cancers. And the next one is since my research on quantitative research design, so the future researcher can choose either they want to use a quantitative or quantitative research design to see the effectiveness of pop songs to improve pupils' pronunciation. So the last one is implications. Implications for the IPG researchers is they can incorporate English pop songs as a key tool for them to in their practical and also once they are graduated and they are real teachers. Okay, for the English educators, they can use this research study to be as a reference for the change from the conventional teaching method to modern teaching method. Where in the modern teaching method, there will be a more fun way of learning English, and also there's also like the classroom method. And the last one is for SOE and full activity. They can show just research study by expanding and modernizing the school infrastructure of technology, for example, like upgrading the computer lab, upgrade projector.
Thank you, Patricia. My question is simple. Why popcorn?
Why
Yeah, why popcorn?
Pop is an application of the popular song. So by using pop song, students can be more familiar. They are used songs that is on radio, on YouTube. Basically, pop song is just like a friendly song. So when we use pop songs, they like, okay, for example, the song for now.
Our time of
Okay, let's say like one song. Maybe the students know the song from one, right? So when we use this song to teach English, let's say we teach about animals, so they can immediately know how to pronounce everything the popular song.
Means they're using the pop song. It's not necessarily English song, but only the melody.
Yeah, only the melody.
So pop here is abbreviation.
Yeah.
And because I thought that the pop is the genre.
Yeah, it's also the pop is it's a general for genre, but
If let's say you're using a different language song, how do you enhance their pronunciation? Maybe.
when
But it's not say you can use, you just want to keep the melody. Like, so how do you improve the student pronunciation in English? You're using different.
but for my pop song,
You were saying that pop song the sound different.
Just the melody. There's no
Melody,
melody.
yeah. You were answering a different contradiction.
yeah. But for my study,
Okay, bye bye.
expected evaluators, fellow friends, okay, my name is Nur Karnisa Azwan from Class 3, PICP June 2024 intake, and I have done research titled Special Caricatures Perception on the use of subtitle audiovisual and AV materials in the tertiary ESL classrooms under the supervision of Madam Salma binti Abdul Razak. So, without further ado, let us get into the background of the study. Okay, the use of technology in teaching has become the norm in today's educational field. Data 2017. So, for instance, SAT materials are used in the ESL classrooms as a teaching aid. It is important to find out the ESL learners' perception on the use of technology in their teaching and learning process because, according to Ahmed 2022, perceptions allow learners to comprehend what topics during the lesson process. And then educators and pedagogues should determine whether their teaching materials are useful or not to improve their teaching style to meet the needs of the learner, according to Chandra MC Nordic. And then, so in IPG, the trained teachers are exposed to the use of technology such as SED materials in their lesson process. So they must have their perception on this matter. Therefore, this research titled Textile Trained Teachers' Perception on the Use of SAD Materials in the Tertiary and Classrooms was conducted. Moving on to the problem statement of the study. According to several scholars, there are benefits of using SAD materials in the tertiary class ESL classrooms. First one, by Ahmed Fatih. He says that he mentioned that the use of SAD materials align with the preferences of contemporary learners. And then Silverman, 2013, and cited in Kaur et al. 2013, said that SAD materials can enhance the learning experience of ESL learners. And lastly, Graphic, Visual and A 2011, as cited in Punal and MSG 2022, stated that it is a strategic choice to enhance ESL learners' vocabulary, speaking skills, and comprehension using SAD materials. So, as we can see from the benefits of using SAD materials, it can be deduced that without subtitles, ESL learners, including classical trained teachers, may struggle to extract the full meaning from audio-visual sources, which may potentially diminish their motivation to engage in English language acquisition, and consequently, this can impede their learning experiences, particularly in terms of receiving input. I am focusing on classical trained teachers because they are still considered as non-native English speakers, which is why I think that they also face this problem. Now, let us get into the fundamentals of this research. So, these research objectives, or RO, will lead to these research questions, or RU. So, based on the research objectives, the first RO, the research questions will be: what are the classical trainings perceptions on the use of subtitled audiovisual materials in the tertiary ESL classrooms? And the second RO will lead to the second RQ, which is there a difference between male and female training teachers' perceptions on the use of SAD materials in the tertiary ESL classrooms? And then the research hypothesis, I have created a null hypothesis, which would be there is no significant difference between male and female training teachers' perception on the use of SAD materials in the tertiary ESL classrooms. So who would who would be benefited by this research? I target the TESOL trained teachers and the TESOL lecturers. The TESOL trained teachers, because they would become conscious of their perception, and then it would allow them to reflect on their past experiences of using the technology in their classroom, and then they can determine whether the use of SAD materials has a significant impact or not in their learning process. And then as for TESOL lecturers, they can evaluate their teaching method to tackle the students' needs and interests if the TESOL teachers believe that they have positive perceptions toward this method. And then the underpinning theory of this research, I have referred to the multiple intelligences theory by Howard Gardner, 1983. So according to this theory, each person has 8 different bits of intelligence that interact with one another in different ways. But for this research, it is only focusing on the visual intelligence, which is stimulated by visual aid, and linguistic intelligence, which can be assisted by subtitles included in the visual aid. As for related past research, there are 3 included in this presentation, but originally there were 10 past research. This past research used the same research design, which is quantitative, and the scholars also conduct this research among the ESL undergraduates. So I have replicated this past research to IBG context. For the conceptual framework, the independent variable would be the TESOL trained teachers, and the dependent variable is the perception on the use of subtitle audiovisual materials, which could be either positive or negative. Okay, now the research design for this research is quantitative survey, and the population is the IDGKDRI PSSC test for June 2020-2024 intake, which consisted of 70 training teachers. So from the 70 training teachers, I have prepared the Tracing and Morgan sampling table, and I have taken 59 training teachers as the sample. And then, as recommended by Lewis et al. 2021, I have taken 10 training teachers for pilot study. So the result of the pilot study can be seen here. So the compound alpha value for 18 items was 0.95. So it is reliable because Strong et al. 2004 as cited in Sahedus 2016 recommended that the value of the reliability test shall be equal to or above 0.6. Hence, the research instrument used for this research is deemed as reliable. For the respondents, there are 4 units in the PISFP June 2020-2024 intake of tester. So there were 30 male training teachers and 46 female training teachers. And from each classes, from tester 1, I have taken 9 training teachers. Tester 2, I have taken 14 training teachers. Tester 3, 18, and also tester 4, also 18 training teachers. So the total of respondents would be 59 training teachers. So this is the research instrument that I have adapted from the survey research title, Perception and Opinion of Students on the Use of Subtitle Video to Improve Their English Vocabulary and Motivation, Tertiary Level Students of Bangladesh by Ahmed 2022. So from the original research question, I have made amendments and changed the wording, and I have also separated some items into 2 different items to avoid double barrier treatments. And then moving on to the data collection procedures. Firstly, a questionnaire was adapted from past research, and then the research was sent to the JBB to be approved as valid by the expert. Then a pilot study was conducted to test the reliability of the research instrument, and then, not to forget, a Google Form link was distributed using the WhatsApp application to the sample of the study. And then let's get into the data analysis procedures for this research. 2 data analysis procedures have been done, which were descriptive and inferential. For the descriptive, it is to find out the first objective of the study, and the inferential is to determine the second objective of the study. Okay, now let's get to the important part of this presentation, the data findings. For the first RQ, what are the testable parameters perceptions on the use of SE materials in the tertiary SL classroom? Okay, as we can see here, the overall mean for perception is 3.71. So if you refer to the mean score interpretation table, the mean 3.71 is in the range between 3.50 to 4.29. Hence, it can be interpreted that the mean is high. Therefore, I believe that the testable teachers have positive perceptions on the use of SAB materials in the tertiary ESL classrooms. As for the second RQ, is there any significant difference between male and female training teachers' perceptions on the use of SAB materials in the tertiary ESL classrooms? For this, a t-test have been done, and if you refer to the significant or the p-value, it is 0.39. So it is above 0.05. So if you refer to the scale of significant level, if the p-value is greater than 0.05, it means that it is not significant. Thus, there is no significant difference between male and female training teachers' perceptions on the use of subtitle audio materials in the tertiary ESL classrooms. For discussions, these are the mean for all of the items, and the highest mean would be achieved by B5, which is 3.80, and the lowest mean score was achieved by B14, 3.56. But all of the mean scores are still in the interpretation level of high. And then for conclusion, for the first RO to find out lesser training perception on the use of SAD materials in the tertiary classrooms, it can be concluded that the TESOL teachers acknowledge the benefits of SAD materials in the tertiary classrooms. So their perceptions to this matter are certainly positive. And for the second RO, it can be deduced that both male and female teachers perceive the use of SAD materials in the tertiary classrooms equally, regardless of gender, because there is no significant difference between their perceptions. So I would like to recommend for future researchers to conduct this research on a bigger or different sample, because according to undergraduate 20, larger sample can increase the reliability and precision of the research results. And then as for different samples, it will allow the researcher to get a wider range of perceptions. And then the second recommendation would be to implement different research designs to get different outcomes. And last but not least, the implications of this research would be towards the TESOL teachers and the TESOL lecturers. So based on the research outcomes, it is evident that TESOL teachers believe that the SAD materials can positively impact their learning experience. So they have positive perceptions toward this method. Not only that, they can also use SAD materials in their future endeavor as a teacher. As for TESOL lecturers, they get to acknowledge and take into consideration the positive perceptions of TESOL teachers on the use of subtitle audiovisual materials, and they can take into consideration and cater the teaching materials to suit the needs and interests of the TESOL teachers to improve their learning experience. So that's all from me. Great.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you very much, Veronica. I would like to draw your attention to your data findings, because you did mention in your data findings that you have your RQ2, okay? Is there a significant difference between male and female? You said it is equally balanced, right? However, if you are looking at the gender, the population, the sample, there, male 13 and female 46, how do you explain this? Because the number of sample itself is not equally balanced there. In fact, 46, 13 is like less than, less than the top.
Yeah,
How do you explain that equal?
I understand that question. That I think I might have mislooked at the number of the males, so I cannot say that it is equal. But I can say that they definitely have same perceptions toward the use of SAD materials in the tertiary class.
Be careful, because you actually, in your conclusion, you did mention both everybody equally regardless of their gender. So here, the usage of the word should be really clarified. You need to justify all that, because the sample is not equal, not even near equal numbers. Right? Okay. Thank you. Okay, no question. Oh, I forgot. You can do this, you can do this. Oh. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, to China, and then Katrina, and introduce myself. My name is Multimedia and I'm from PISMP in 2020 as a 3, and I am a patient of Nabi Suhaib Ahmad. And today I would like to present a research that I have conducted this year. The title Exploring the Interest on Instagram and IPC in English writing skills. Before I say further about my research, I would like to ask, are you an avid Instagram user? Yeah. Okay, thank you for the response. If yes, then have you ever thought that by writing instructions on Instagram could actually help us to improve our English writing skills and actually motivate us in English writing skills? So here, I would like to share with you findings and full report of my research, which are in line with the idea of utilizing the interest of writing discussions on Instagram and how it actually motivates and improves English writing skills among writing together island. Alright, so first I will explain a bit about the background of the study. According to Zare and Rudra Baraku in 2019, it is found out that actually able to boost learning productivity. And this is well supported by Sophie and Mahadi in 2019, where they found out that Instagram is actually a good learning medium to learn language skills. So without us realizing our interest in using Instagram in our daily life, we actually enhance our language skills, especially in this regard of in the regard of business related to English. So if we use our Instagram by writing instructions on Instagram, we could actually enhance our English language skill. And according to Tio Sainfu and Yunus in 2014, writing skill is important in mastering the language, as we are all Malaysians and we learn English as second language. It is important for us to master writing skill in order for us to fully acquire the language itself. And according to Kusana and Falta in 2020, which is I believe the main point of the whole research, writing actually increased student motivation and English writing skills. So to dig further about this statement, I will share with you the statement of the problem of this study, which acts as the indicator and somehow the reason why I conduct this research. So according to Alfie in 2020, writing is one of the language skills that is challenging to be mastered. And it is challenging to ESL is not only to us, it also challenging to various level of education, like ESL is from primary school and secondary school, and because of this, one of the challenges for them is to write an English essay on tertiary level. In the regard of my research, this statement could be seen when some of the students in IPHKDRI, the non-technical students I mentioned, they are required to undergo a course, communication in English, the non-technical students, and some of them have expressed that they have difficulty in producing a good English writing, due to several problems that they face relating to transferring ideas and using suitable words for grammar. And because of these problems, there are lack of understanding English content, motivation, and interest in learning English, especially in English writing skills. So, let's move on to the research of my research. The research objective of this research is how the interest in writing English motivate English writing skills among IPG KBR Island local students. And second, discover how the interest in writing English can improve English writing skills among IPG KBR Island. The objective will reflect the research question, which somehow will be answered in level findings. So one of the research questions of this segment is how does the interest in writing English on Instagram skill among IT students are non-learning students, and how does the interest in writing in chat improve in visual skills and AI? Let's take a look at the significance. So this research are significant to as for the students, somewhat defined how they are interested in actual participation, as for the lecture, or using Instagram as one of the in conducting a written English assignment or classes, use Instagram as a relevant. This is, I believe, to actually very point and beneficial as are all living in technology. And Instagram is one of the social media that could actually make it as one use it and utilize it learning in more interesting and fun. So, these research somehow by several participants. I have are like, for example, according to the in 2017, Mansu and Martin in 2017, somehow completed useful learning tool English skills. And these statements by that are also interrelated with the research, the point research conducted by Larry and Guzar Parapu in 2019, as well as Rafaela, contributes to English competency among secondary and I want to share with you one interesting point that I have found in relating to the past research here. Larry and Guzar they conducted this same almost research. Meanwhile, Nabila, they conducted a study in relation to position Alright, and the other research that also points to this information is from Ramadan in 2021 and Nomina in 2018, where the group of ESL learners from all of the classes see that that could actually motivate and improve the Alright, so here is my here that I think there are one each instrument is population is employed each approach and my business population is 40% of PIS teachers intake majority PIC because I think that find out that from yes and from teaching I have applied the mandate of I took three of the and for that I have point and in conduct. The first I have conducted part for each and also that and so from these two actually observe their their and their and the last one is all these research is by the next one is butterfly. So the first one is post analyze analyze and I record it and method of thematic analysis approach by Brown and Clark in 2006. The first step is to familiarize the data, and the second one is to code the data, and the third one is to generate the teams, define, and these are the teams that I have generated content, contribution, improvement on the as for the findings in this table, I would like to show you the middle one is the team, and on the right side is the code. The code that I have. So based on the code, I have generated from each research, and it found out that there is the team interest and the responded well. And the team and as for the it comes out that each research is valid and viable as all the are calculated and all the points in connection the interest calculated from all the first one I would like to point out this theme is responding to the first research question, which is how does research in writing motivate the student. So here, see that they are motivation and they continue to write key points are actually with the theory that I model where one of the key elements in this model is measurement and which could improve learning language. And as for the second, the concept found out and use them to which in visual here. And as for the topic, questions which are relating to the how does the improve that. So this is when we have as well as Instagram as a platform where they learn to write English through Instagram and it where it stated that some of the elements so they are learning about that. Alright, conclusion As for the conclusion of my research, or research of mine, the interdependent has to be skill of our students and from the learn their positive their frequent of the approach and their skill environment and to if in the curriculum and are able to provide given the correct data and right technique and they keep on listening to you. Alright, my research for future research, I like to put that for that study focusing on research, different approach where about this study using quantitative approach like survey or quality wider on how students that have a certain like mine and then they could also contact to other courses like that. And using different and as for is that from my study from the yes what we did in and they practice children and then that skills and then that and then
Thank you very much, Nadia. Interesting view on Instagram. Now, talking about writing and Instagram, I'm not mistaken. I'm not really that so much of using it. However, if I am not mistaken, there is a limitation for you to put up. Alright? Alright? There are limitations. So if I am not mistaken, it is less than 50 words. Alright, so that's why I wanted to ask about the document and the picture that you are taking. So, talking about limitations of words, so not just of words, the number of words that you see.
And eight their review, completion, And that is which
Why not associate?
point of view be because I know much about it. When you actually some or practice something that
Don't you think 40 is a lot for case study? Population or is it sample? Okay, thank you. Oh, that's fine. Yes.
ini adalah platform to all my friends. Okay, so I begin with since I'm last here, I hope that everyone is still energetic. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I will explain about my okay. Before that, my name is from Unit Lesson 3. And my research title is about the practice of written reflections to develop training teachers professionalism teaching during practical the case study and analysis and the supervision of Miss Fatin Suryabi VP Juso. So before I'd like to go further about my topic, I'd like to clarify a bit about my title here. The practice of written reflections. Practice there means repeated actions in which the training teachers are assigned to do the reflections, written reflections, namely the weekly reflective journal and also the lesson plan reflections throughout the 12 week of practical. So my studies, I want to explore more about the how the practice of that written reflection to develop the training teachers professionalism in teaching during practical. So these are the overview of my presentation for today. So we start with the background first. Okay. So the written forms of reflection, such as journals, portfolios, and narratives, are one of the integral factors in improving critical reflection that result in cultivating professionalism in teaching, cited by the Pujola and Guedo 2023. It says that actually reflection has different has like varied forms of it, but my study is focusing on reflection that supported by the Guedo. It says that written reflection is also considered as one of the integral factors of individuals to self-evaluate themselves for their key practices to improve and to cultivate indirectly to cultivate their professional teaching. And one of the high quality manners of a professional teacher in a classroom improving students' potential and achievement. Also, I would like to highlight that professionalism has wide scope of definition, but my study is focusing on professionalism in teaching, in which stated by the Muhammad Study and 2016 that a quality manner of a professional teacher in the classroom is when we can improve their students' potential and achievement by acting on what they have done. So, in my research, the Malaysian Institute of Teaching Education, IBGM, 2014, has outlined 5 aspects, important aspects for a teacher to practice the professionalism of teaching. Namely, the first one is to set the appropriate and suitable learning content that is suitable to the student activities. And number 2 is to able to select and prepare effective teaching sources for the students. Number 3, to interrogate questions that can promote creative and critical thinking skills. And number 4, they can initiate a conversation or make a discourse with the students to improve the students' learning abilities. And number 5, they're able to do an evaluation, whether it is self-evaluation or evaluation to the pupils, and taking follow-up actions to address the issues that. So in my research, this is the guideline to code the data that I obtained from the respondent, which my research employed a data approach for data using that one. Alright, so what is the problem actually? As what I mentioned just now, that written reflection is one of the self-evaluation tools that help the training teacher develop their professional teaching. Because training teacher, they are still novice teachers. They do not know what exactly they have to what they're looking at. So they need to reflect in order they can improve or do a betterment for their teaching practices. So the problem arises here when some of the language teachers do not find the need to reflect, and because they have a lot of activities to juggle. For example, during our practical, we have supervision and we have other workloads aside from teaching, like we have other programs to conduct school, and also we have classroom challenges that we feel like it's too hard for us to cater to all the students' needs in the classroom. So because of these challenges, we do not have the ample time to commit to reflection. According to Carol H. and Go and Matthews here. And also stated by Saya and Fields in 2012, it says that effective journals from the view of teachers, they said just a mere task to be completed throughout practical instead of they try to critically sit down and reflect on their teaching. So what are the impacts? This problem, when this problem arises, the impact is training teachers will not become competent, self-directed, become professional, and improving themselves, and therefore it prevents effective teaching and learning session from taking place. So this impact is will be deteriorated if we as training teachers did not realizing the importance of critically effective to develop our teaching. So my research objective, therefore, because of the problem, I two conduct. First one is I want to explore the issues written in the training teachers' reflections, namely the wiki reflective journals and lesson plan reflections that reflect professionalism in teaching based on what has been outlined by the that I mentioned now. And the second one is I want to find out what extent written reflection help the training teacher to develop his professionalism in teaching during. So this is the question: what is written? The training teacher's reflections that reflect professional teaching, and to what extent have written reflections develop his professional teaching? So this is my research assignment. This is my independent variable, the weekly reflection, how these affect the professionalism in teaching, the training teachers' professionalism in teaching will be affected. So my research significance might guarantee format one is the MOE and the IPG itself. Maybe this research can give feedbacks to them to improve and enforce other methods for effective reflections. For example, maybe we can introduce or integrate the subject that help us as training teachers on how can we they can guide us on how can we do critical reflection or actual reflection that is needed for us to develop our professional skills. And for the lectures for the supervisors, maybe this is just them to facilitate their supervising to produce a more meaningful reflections. And for the training teachers, it brings awareness on the importance of critically reflect teaching practices to develop their teaching professionalism and indirectly give them motivation to do a meaningful reflection. So according to Penny and Rahma, training teachers need to continuously reflect, develop the overall professional aspect of teaching because we are still novice, we are in need of learning. And the last one is for e-service teachers to give them awareness and motivation because some of the research says that most of e-service teachers do not have time because they have other things to do, so they don't really write reflections to improve their quality of teaching. Okay, so these are the past related past researches. I have already categorized it into three basically. The first one is the role and effectiveness of critical reflection. These are three congruent research from Sulaiman 2016, Damlo Penyelidikan, and Sahi et al. This one is from Thailand, Sulaiman and Sahi from Turkey. This research, it's a mixed method in qualitative. It says that in Sulaiman research, 81% agree that critical reflection help them to identify their strengths and weaknesses. And this is quite different because Sulaiman actually conducted a workshop for the respondents to how can they do their reflection. So upon the workshop, after the workshop was ended, they agreed that critical reflection helped them to evaluate themselves and help them to find identify their strengths and weaknesses. Also similar to double Penyelidikan, weekly reflection help them to cultivate critical thinking, evaluate themselves, monitor their teaching progress, perceptions, and also congruent with Sati, it helps to develop better strategies for future teaching practices. So this is the role and practice of critical reflection. For this one, the relationship between academic performance and level of reflection. This is quite interesting because my respondent, I got a single in which my respondent has maintained his first class GPA ever since CPI and he got A plus for first phase of practical. So this research is congruent with STEM 2001, in which he says that academic achievement influences the level of reflection that results in better practical performance because they are able to link the theoretical concepts that they learn into practice, into their teaching practices. So that it shows that they can their level of reflection is quite different. And the last one is the influence of greater reflection on in-service and in-service teachers. This is conducted in two different groups and from Dayasri and Kuswandono, Indonesia. It says that in-service teachers evaluate teaching practices, modify and all, but however, they propose suggestions that need supervisors feedback in order for them to do a more quality reflection. Okay, so my research design, I employed qualitative approach and simple design. So why I use poly and case study? Because according to Pro and Con 2012, case study is exploration of an multifaceted investigation of a social phenomenon in real life context. And I use single case study because according to Marshall et al. 2015, qualitative research often use smaller sample because if it's too much, it will obstruct the researcher from gaining or obtaining deeper and richer data analysis because they need to analyze for deeper data. So here my calculation is specific as a June 2024 intake, but I use purposive sampling, which is I deliberately chose these students that maintains first class GPA and A plus for his practical phase 1 to participate in this segment. So my research instrument, because qualitative study have like triangulation method of data to enable the validity and reliability of data. So I use I employ three data sources to obtain my insights. So actually it has two characteristics, which are document analysis and semi-structured. So this one is lesson plan instructions, I employ structured review and weekly. So these are one of the evidences that I can show you. This one is my respondents with the journal that I've analyzed and reflection and report. So the research procedures, the first one is of course ask permission to conduct research and I identify questions I needed for the research on what I want to dig more on this research. And I ask for the respondents' consent and to collect their document analysis, the reflections, and then I analyze the document and I establish instrument before I got to establish instruments by the experts from GBPI and also for the experts from JBB and also from my supervisor. I have already amended and developed a total of 60 questions and I conducted a semi-structured interview of 1 hour with my respondent. And I put the data, I categorize it into teams, and I triangulate the data of all the findings I obtained, and I document the data in my research report. So these are the full detail of data collection procedures. I use data collection, data analysis. I use employ the Brown and Clark six-phase framework, thematic analysis for the data code and also data categorization. So these are the analysis procedures which I mentioned before. According to according to this guideline from ITGM, I managed to obtain four peaks and three peaks that comprises these four elements from the ITGM from the aspect that has been outlined by the Okay. So the themes are number one is suitable lesson planning, effective communication, enhancing students' learning ability, and team three is self-motivation. So basically, team one, team one and until team three answers the research question one, which I want to explore what are the students. So these are the students that I've categorized in team. And number two is that because I want to find what extent how the teacher develops professionalism will be answered for the other team three. And for your information, suitable lesson learning actually it comprises these two aspects, appropriate learning content and effective teaching sources, because a suitable lesson planning would not be assessed if effective learning materials not to measure the student's level of comprehension. Alright, so these are the data findings that I can show you the answers are one. These are the codes that I get the data from three sources, journals, and also the interview transcription. Basically, this respondent had difficulty with student disengagement in the lesson because it says that the training teachers says he used like an inexciting teaching materials that bore the students, and he also said that he needs to like modify his lesson planning according to the students' different learning needs, like auditory, the visual, and all. So it shows here from the review journal, the visual learners, auditory learners, just in my lesson plan and all. He just not merely reflecting on what he has encountered in the classroom. Instead, he also come up with suggestions, proposed a follow-up on how can he address the issue that arise. And it shows students some distraction interview, which he try using whichever methods that work the best for the learners in the classroom. And team two is effective communication enhancing students' learning ability. The teacher trainees had difficulty in getting the message across because of the language barrier. The students use talk in one language, and also the training teacher use of advanced English did not make the messages comprehensible to the students. Therefore, whatever that he reflected, he also proposed solutions that in semi-structured where he said he need to repeat and simplify the instructional language for the students, and also he could use basic English for students to make the discourse comprehensive. So the last one is thing three. Answers are to what extent does this reflection help the teacher develop his professionalism? I categorize it into three. Is into two codes in which which reflection helps him to identify his strengths and weaknesses, and also upon reflecting, he was like being open to learn from experienced teachers, namely from the mentor teacher and from the supervisor herself. So he mentioned in the interview that whenever he found out that the issues arise in the classroom, he knows exactly what he has in order for him to not let the class not let the issue keep on arising every week. Therefore, he willing to be open to learn from active teacher as as can be seen here in the semi-structured interview. It says that the original question helps to identify strengths. It says question himself, show his weakness, seek tailored professional development. This shows that written question act as the self-evaluation tool for him to develop his professionalism in teaching during practical. So this is supported by Freddy Housen. He states that professional teachers that both for themselves and their students begin to take initiative rather than be told what to do. So he does not merely reflecting, but he also came up with proposed suggested solutions. So this is the presentation that I did, which is the sources, and the data obtained from the three sources. Like I reached the consensus in which the findings the findings corroborated each other to answer the research questions posed in the research. So the conclusion, what I can conclude is the written reflection in namely the weekly reflection materials and lesson plan reflection help the training teacher develop his professionalism teaching practical. But I based on the RQ1, the issues written are based on the three things that I've already presented, and also to what extent has helped the training teacher in which he be open to learn, be willing to learn, and also he can identify his strengths to improve his teaching. So what I recommend is these three types. The first one is my research design, because a single case study maybe it's quite limited. But for future researchers, maybe you can they can use multiple case studies or the way to like obtain a wider a wider insight from wider sample. And on sample, I only use one respondent, which I found it an outstanding respondent. And also, the recommendation that I would recommend is they can conduct research to full intake of IPG training teachers, or maybe from East and West Coast Malaysia. And the research focus, I limit only to professional teaching, because I already said professional has wider scope. Maybe future researchers can put the Malaysian teacher standard, in which teachers' professionalism practices has three domains that revolve around personal domain, professional domain, and social domain. So maybe they cannot just focus on teaching, they can focus on professional individuals or professional activities. These are the implications for all the four participants. Also, this thing actually I've already presented this one in the previous slide. I think that's all.
What do you understand by single case study and multiple case study.
The definition of single case and multiple case study. Like what I said, single case study is a study to explore topic on a single individual that is outstanding, like why we want gain like rich data from he or her himself or herself, like to answer the research questions that why multiple case studies are related to like study about like more.
That sounds like the single case study doesn't mean one person, one second. You can have several people, but only one case. The human one. Still keep a single case, but you can have more than one. And you can have all the students, but if you have 7 people who get incident, then you can
Sequence way and the
as
single
one.
case.
Your data is saturated. Yeah, I wonder why don't get anyone to I have also read it's an interesting topic. It's close to you. Only that.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is what I recommend for researchers.
so about doing this study, I mean, compared to other studies, so this was one thing.
Yeah, you mean but to be honest, I feel like actually we let the exposure on how JBB actual quality the data. So we like I found it a struggle because I people to senior work and like
Not
we have
really.
to make it's quite struggle as well. We like it.
Not many students contribute.
We like the struggles.
Even among lecturers, I think only Dr. Faiza and I were following students. Other than mix of positive quantity. This is not really the question. I just want to tell all of you for the new cohort, the 6 classes. I don't know how to call them anymore. Okay. We actually have a new subject which guide them on how to write reflection.
Wow.
This new cohort, they are going to learn how to write reflection. That is a subject for them. And by the way, JPI, everyone, JPI stands for Jabatan Perancangan Pendidikan dan Inovasi, bukan Jabatan Pusat. Ada a lot Jabatan Pusat Pendidikan. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have next.
Yeah.
So you're going to select everything. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, everyone, the best presenter. Hi. That's one. That's one.